And so, as you can see right there, a familiar face versus a newcomer to congressional campaigns. That's the matchup in New Hampshire's 2nd congressional district tonight, where Republican Steve Negron is challenging the incumbent Democrat Annie Kuster.
Political director Adam Sexton looks at how each candidate got to this midterm and their goals in Washington.
We care about you.
She's a 3-term incumbent who's managed to hold on to New Hampshire's 2nd congressional district seat in the face of political headwinds in back-to-back elections. As she seeks a 4th term in Congress, Ann McLean Kuster wants to return to Capitol Hill to serve in the majority.
We have the opportunity to take back the House of Representatives. And I think what you've seen is Republicans are just not getting the job done.
In her re-election effort, Kuster has focused heavily on the opioid crisis, reform at the VA, and bread-and-butter economic issues.
It's so difficult right now. The cost of childcare is so high. The cost of education and the loans are so high. It's hard to go out and buy a house because it's expensive. I want to look at this in a holistic way.
Kuster also paid a visit to the U.S.-Mexico border this summer to inspect an immigration customs and enforcement facility where immigrant children were being held.
This has just been heartbreaking. I think the people working here are trying to bring some compassion to the job, but they're in an impossible situation.
Kuster tells News 9 if voters grant her a 4th term, she already has her priorities set for 2019.
I'm going to fight for Social Security and Medicare, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that they're sustainable for the long run. We also have much work to be done in terms of the workplace. Paid family and medical leave is a big issue here in New Hampshire. I think it should be an issue nationally.
For Steve Negron, a meteoric rise in Republican politics started at the New Hampshire State House. Serving on the Election Law Committee, he ended up on the front lines of what would become one of the top issues of this election cycle: voting rights.
Either you are a resident and comply with all laws, or you're not.
When he decided to run for Congress, he was just one candidate in a field of conservatives, campaigning hard for support.
I think the thing that differentiates me, Adam, from the rest of them is that I haven't been singularly focused on a career. So I was an ICBM, a Missile Combat Crew Commander in the early 80s under Ronald Reagan, one of the guys 90 feet on the ground that had 10 nuclear weapons.
Negron's service, his business background, and his conservative message carried him to victory in the GOP primary in September. On election night, he called for an all-hands-on-deck effort to defeat his Democratic opponent.
We need to come together as a party. We need to make sure that if we are going to unseat a 3-term incumbent, it's going to be an overarching effect. It's got to be the entire GOP of the state of New Hampshire.
As he makes his closing argument for the general election, Negron says he wants to bring the values of New Hampshire's citizen legislature to Washington.
One of the things that actually made such a profound impact on me was that people would drive 2.5 hours for 5 minutes of your time because they fundamentally believed that they had a voice, that they could affect change. And that's really the way this government and our country should run it. You know, you have representatives that are supposed to listen to your constituents. You know, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what you have to do. You have to lend an ear.
Those candidates are working so hard out there, but we do know the weather can affect turnout on Election Day. So let's check in now with Chief Meteorologist Mike Haddad for a look ahead at tomorrow's forecast. Mike?
Yeah, and Jen, thankfully we don't have to deal with any wet weather during the mid part of the day. We don't have to deal with ice or snow, but there is some rain that's out there right now. You can clearly see batch number 1 moving from south to north. So this will have an impact on those heading out very early in the morning. And then you notice back to our west, there's a bit of a break here in and around Pennsylvania all the way into parts of the Ohio Valley. That's the time you want to get out to the polls if you don't want to get wet from, say, mid-morning to about midday, early afternoon. And then, yes, another batch of even heavier rain nearing the Ohio Valley. And the next stop will be over New Hampshire. So let's break down the hour-by-hour timeline here on Futurecast. You'll notice as we jump into early tomorrow morning, there could be a leftover shower, maybe a touch of drizzle, temperatures on average into the 40s, and then those temps will climb up to near 50, but here comes the heavier rain from right around midday or 1 o'clock through the entire afternoon. There could even be a thunderstorm in any one given spot, and then it all clears out, of course, once the polls are closed, so timing not all that great for the afternoon and during the early part of the evening. So here we go hour by hour. Yeah, during the early part of the day, a couple of light showers, mostly cloudy. Any shower during the midday will be in western parts of the state, and then more showers during the afternoon, and some of those could be a bit on the heavy side. So, guys, that's what we're talking about. The rain on average is going to be light during the earliest part of the day. We get a bit of a lull, so if you want to kind of get out there early during the mid to late morning. We're in pretty good shape, and then the rain comes right back in. It's not ice. It's not snow.
Right.
Don't let the weather stop you from doing what you got to do.
A good plan.
Put a coat on, carry an umbrella.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay,
we want to go back now to WMUR's online poll asking about the most important issues to voters this year. Gun control is near the top of the list. And here's where the 2nd Congressional District candidates stand on that issue.
Well, let me start by saying I'm a believer in the Second Amendment. New Hampshire has a long tradition of hunting, and I've talked to a lot of people who want to protect their families in their own home. But I do think that we can do more to keep our communities safe, in particular our schools and our theaters. And so I would support background checks. One of the laws I support is called No Fly, No Buy, which is if you are a terrorist and you can't fly on our planes, then you shouldn't be able to buy a gun. And that would include MS-13. I don't think MS-13 should be out buying guns in the United States.
I think the #1 gun law Congress should change is have a national reciprocity law, so that if you're okay to carry in one state, just like you do with driver's licenses, you should be able to carry in all the other 48 contiguous states.
And we will have much more coming up in our special coverage on this election eve, including the record number of voters expected to turn out tomorrow and how that could affect future elections.
We'll also take a look at how this midterm is playing out all across the country and what that means on Capitol Hill.
Plus, much more on the candidates' final push to sway undecided voters and the help they're getting from some very familiar faces when we come right back.